ancient times, my reign was unchallenged until I was imprisoned by a new kind of adversary. I was defeated, but while I slumber, I dream of the future. One with the warriors I need, whose power I will use to bring about a new age for the entire multiverse. An age of apocalypse.
Greetings, Marvel Strike Force fans, and welcome to this very special edition of Strike Time, where you are going to meet the people behind some of the big announcements in our 2022 preview blog. So grab a big bowl of popcorn and your favorite libation, because we have 3 interviews to get to with insights from some of the minds that help bring the game to life. All right, let's kick off these interviews. Mr. Sean Dugan, our creative director. I believe this is your first appearance here on Strike Time. Welcome.
It is. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate you inviting me onto the show.
Yeah, creative director, big role. Could you let our players know just a little bit about what you do on the team?
Sure. I like to think of my role as like I am trying to make sure that the game is filled with awesomeness. Now, what does that actually mean, right? So my role is to make sure that the game we have is a great game and it is true to the Marvel experience. That when you think of Marvel, epic action, superheroes, supervillains, all those cosmic clashes, that we're trying to deliver that in game. So it's a blend of how our game design looks, taking into account the visual style, and make sure that they all come together in this mixture that is truly delivering on Marvel and everything that a Marvel fan wants in a game.
Yeah, I would say Marvel fans at this point have really high expectations. And speaking of which, we have now officially announced that one of the most infamous supervillains in all of Marvel, Apocalypse, is coming to the game, and that this is going to be a big epic journey that we are taking them on. So how would you say that the team is handling the creative process, and how are we going to unfold this big saga?
Well, we're bringing Apocalypse to the game, the big A, right? So This is a big deal. And so we didn't want to just come up with something that was totally familiar. I mean, the game is great and people kind of know things like the way we've done Dark Dimension and, various game modes, but we wanted to raise the bar. We wanted to create something that is even better. So we've invested in kind of new variations on the game modes that you're familiar with, adding new dynamic elements to kind of make the experience a little bit more your own, create challenges for yourself. And this is all part of a huge interlocking series of game modes, story events, this kind of thing that are going to tell the entire Apocalypse saga, including the Horsemen, across the year.
So you mentioned there a little bit about iteration. I might even use the word evolving. How are you and the team thinking about the Apocalypse saga differently than a number of the events and features that we've done in the past?
Well, we're trying to put more control in the players' hands for what they're doing. I mean, we're going to have some familiar elements where you need to craft certain teams and they're going to be good for different things. But we also wanted to create some game modes where the players will have some controls over what they do. They can create certain challenges for themselves. They can up or decrease the difficulty, make the play experience a little bit more their own as they're going on this epic journey with Apocalypse.
Now, I know we can't get too specific here, but would it be possible for you to just peel back the curtain a little bit and talk about how we were working with Marvel to kind of create some of these unique elements on the take of the Apocalypse saga for Marvel Strike Force?
Well, working with Marvel is great. Marvel is a terrific partner, both creatively and from a practical standpoint. They're always working with us. Apocalypse, he's a terrific supervillain. He has a long history in comics and film and animated shows and all this kind of thing.
Yep.
we were encouraged to create our own take on Apocalypse. So the Apocalypse that we're doing is really a part of the world, the game building world that we created for Marvel Strike Force. And then the Horsemen that are a part of that world, they're going to be true to the spirit of previous iterations of Horsemen that you've seen, but also there's going to be some new wrinkles, some new takes on it that I think are going to surprise a few folks and hopefully delight.
So let's expand on that just a little bit more before we get to some of the interviews that we've got today. Is there anything else kind of regarding our overarching design philosophy for 2022 that you think is worth mentioning?
Well, I think the thing that I would really emphasize is that on the design team, you know, we play the game, we enjoy the game. So we're there with the players. And so what we're trying to do is make the game interesting for everybody. We want to up the bar. We want to like bring it to a new level. So, you know, it'd be easy to sit on your laurels and kind of do what is familiar, but we really have committed this year to creating new game experiences that are, you know, things like Avengers Tower, you know, Pocket Dimensions. We're going to have the Cosmic Crucible. These are new game modes that, you know, create different kinds of experiences. So there's always something new and dynamic. We don't want to just give the same thing. We want to increase things. We want to make it better and better. And so, you know, we're always looking for ways to up our game and give more dynamic excitement to the fans.
All right, Sean, well, thank you for coming on the show and kind of setting things up for us today. I have a feeling like you and I are going to be having more discussions this year. So
I feel like there's going to be a few topics that might come up that we might want to chat about and bring the fans in and talk about all the fun we're going to have in the upcoming year.
So thank you so much for coming on. Again, we'll see you later on more this year. We have Sean Hyde Moyer, who is a systems designer on the team. Thank you so much for being here. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do on the team?
Sure. I'm kind of a generalist. I design features. I work on economy sometimes. I'm the guy that does the spreadsheets.
The spreadsheets. What are some of the other things that you've worked on in the past in the game that our players might be familiar with?
Save squads, the tabbed save squads. That was one of mine. I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Just did a bit of a rework on placing people into alliances when they join the game.
So the reason why we have you on the show today is that you have actually been hard at work on an exciting new feature coming this year to Marvel Strike Force. Can you tell us the name of this awesome new feature?
Sure. This is a thing that we're calling the Scourge events. And these are the events that folks will play to unlock horsemen.
Of which I believe there are 4, correct?
There are, in fact, 4 horsemen.
Not 3, not 5, but 4.
Shall I try to name them from memory? Oh, no, we don't name them because they're secret.
Okay, so Scourge events. Let's start with some of the familiar elements, and then let's move into kind of the new elements that players are going to see. So what are some of the familiar elements of this Scourge event that players will recognize from some of the other modes that we've got in the game?
Sure. So it's a little bit like a very small dark dimension. There are 10 missions that make up one of these events. These are short battles, somewhere around 5-6 minute battles, and there are 10 of them length. There is no healing in between, and that's I'd say that's kind of the familiar piece.
All right, so let's break down some of these new elements from these Scourge events. So in looking at kind of like what I would consider to be the home screen for this, where you see things like difficulty, you've got kind of this gauge meter, you've got this list of these different objectives that you're trying to complete. Can you kind of just break that down, all of these different UI elements and what they mean?
Sure. So, like I said, there's 10 missions, right? So the very first thing that a player is probably going to do is change the difficulty, and there'll be a gear tier recommendation. It's just a recommendation. You can try it at any level you want and select that. That'll be your base difficulty. Based on how difficult it is, the trait restrictions on the nodes might change. Mm-hmm. That happens generally up at the top few difficulties. So there's this new element that we are launching with the Scourge events, and not coincidentally, they are called Scourges. That list that you're talking about, that is a list of Scourges. Scourges are things that make the battle more difficult for you. We've got a Scourge called Weak Opener. At the start of a match, all players gain Disrupted. Here's one, Devil's Bargain. Player characters gain 2 deflect at the cost of 1 team slot. You'll crank up the difficulty to what you're comfortable with, and then you'll start adding these Scourges in. And these Scourges make it harder for you, but they also multiply your points. The more Scourges that you add that you can actually kind of still make progress with, you're going to get more and more points for your run. You can't change the Scourges once you've started a run, but you can bail out of a run if it turns out to be too hard. If you were to add all the Scourges, which I wouldn't recommend, that's going to get you about as many points as kicking up the difficulty 1 level. There are a bunch of them. I think there's probably going to launch with around 30 of them.
Around 30? Okay, so that's a lot.
Yeah, so you will have the ability to go in and pick the ones that make sense for you. Actually, let me find one that's about your team. So Revive is disabled for player team. So if you're not going to use characters that revive, then yeah, go ahead and add that Scourge, because it's not going to penalize you if you're not using a lot of revives. So
it kind of hoses my Dormammu there, Sean. Thanks.
Yeah. You try it, and if it doesn't work, let's say you're at your top difficulty level, you layer on some Scourges, and you get up to mission 9, and you can't make it any further. You still actually get scored on all the missions that you have completed. Okay. So it's possible that you might even get your high score without fully completing a run. So we've tried to make it as friendly as possible to experiment.
And then once you achieve that highest score on a run, it just stays at that highest score, right? Yeah, like it's not like it resets or anything. It's like once you've raised the bar, that bar stays up there.
That's it. That's the only score that matters. I've been having just a blast playing with the Scourges and trying to figure out, given the teams that I'm bringing in, what's gonna work. The thing that we really pushed for on this event was let's just make it fun and deep. It's likely that these things are going to repeat during the year. And so we want you to be able to, go back and do it again and still feel like you're getting value out of it.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about some trait restrictions there, and that when you, the higher the difficulty level, kind of the more narrow some of the traits can get in the higher nodes. Can you talk a little bit about that? First, starting with what's the baseline, right? Can I take any characters on my roster?
At the lower level of difficulties, it's super broad. It's going to be things like city, villain, hero. So we don't expect that will cause much, it's going to make you mix up your teams, which you will need to do anyway, because like I said, there's no healing in between missions on a run. All right. Okay. So you're going to want to bring in a bunch of different characters to help you push as far as you can go. Okay.
So some broad traits at the lower difficulties. By the time we get to the higher difficulties, like you ratchet it all the way up to 10, what type of traits are you going to need to beat those higher nodes?
Sure. Specifically for the higher nodes, you're going to need to bring in Web Warriors and Dark Hunters. There are going to be some missions that require them,
and that's for this Scourge. This set of Scourge events,
right? This initial event, of which again there will be 4. Okay,
but then the subsequent ones might have different Scourges and different traits.
Different Scourges, different traits.
Right. All right. So let's talk rewards. We've got, I'm looking at the screen here, we've got leaderboards, milestone, ranking. Can you break those down for us?
Sure. So you will get shards for the horsemen, for each particular horseman that the event is played for, both from completing milestones, which you just do by doing runs, getting as high a score as you can, and you will get shards based on your placement on the leaderboard. One of the interesting things about this is that the milestones are repeatable. So if we run this first horseman event again later, you can play it again, and you can get you can claim those milestones again.
And then the leaderboards. Anything new there, or is it pretty run-of-the-mill?
It is pretty straightforward. The more points you get, the higher your rank. The higher your rank, the more shards of the horseman you're gonna take home.
And then the last tab on there, we have the ranking rewards. Can you give us the details on that one, please?
Sure. So the rank rewards will, look like a lot of our previous rank rewards. The higher you rank, the more shards you take home. Mm-hmm. And while the exact numbers are still being worked out, the highest ranking players will get a very high unlocked horseman at the end of the event.
So we've established we've got 4 horsemen. So there will be 4 individual Scourge events coming in 2022.
That's right.
And that all leads up to an event with Apocalypse. But I think that's going to be different than the Scourge events, correct?
Yeah. So I'm imagining we will be sitting here in a couple of months talking about this again.
Yeah.
There's a whole extra piece here we're not ready to talk about yet.
Okay.
But this is a big thing that is happening all year long. There is another piece that lives on top of this. Not even sure I want to say event, but another mode, another something that we'll talk about later. And you'll then fight to unlock Apocalypse. Super excited about the whole arc of this year. It's just going to be fantastic.
All right, Sean, thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us those details. It sounds like we're going to be talking to you a few times this year, so thanks a lot.
I hope so. There's so much coming. It's super exciting.
And back with us on the program is Mr. Zach Reynolds. It's been a little while. Usually you're here to talk about new characters, but you're talking about a new feature today. What happened there?
Yeah, I've done a lot of things here at the studio. I'm super happy to be working on this new game mode that we're here to talk about today. Really excited.
Yeah, man, we are super happy to have you back. So, for those that may not have seen our 2022 preview yet, can you kind of just give the quick elevator pitch on this new game mode?
Sure, yeah. So it's called Cosmic Crucible. So it's a new PvP mode coming to Marvel Strike Force. Cosmic Crucible pits 8 players. Right now we're going to be doing 8 players in a Swift-style tournament. Where each round you'll be placed against a new opponent. Similar to Alliance War, you'll be setting up defending teams, and your goal is to beat your opponent's teams as efficiently as possible.
So from a story perspective, how does this fit in with Marvel Strike Force?
Yeah, so the general premise is Ultimus's war broke the order of our reality and countless others. As a result, a being called the Living Tribunal has been sent to sort out our timelines back to their proper place. It is seen fit to do this using a Cosmic Crucible, which is, this tournament that's going to pit commanders from countless different multiverses against each other. The idea is he's going to be trying to tweak rules a bit here and there to make sure that he can see where the proper pieces should lay.
And this is actually a brand new environment that we made specifically for this game mode, right?
Yeah. This is another one of the coolest things that I've worked on. We worked on a brand new combat environment for this mode. A lot of work went into it. We're still working on it. We'll be working on it, for the next really up until it's ready for the players.
I don't even know the answer to this. Like, how long does it take for us to make one of these new environments for the game?
Months. It's a fully fledged 3D environment, 360. We've got the crazy camera angles in the game, so we can't just work on one part. We've got to do the entire environment. And this one, we're kind of pulling out all the stops. I don't want to spoil anything, but we're adding new types of interactions in the environment with what's happening in the combat field.
So the name Cosmic Crucible, can you delve into a little bit why this mode is named that, where that comes from?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, early on, I think we kind of latched onto the term crucible because, the definition is like a really serious trial that leads to something new, right? And so that's sort of the what the tribunal is doing here. He's sorting out these different timelines, presumably putting us on, a new path. The living tribunal is an entity in space, so cosmic made a lot of sense here. I expect most of our players to just refer to it as Crucible, and that's likely how we'll be referring to it in shorthand as well.
Well, our players never cease to I don't know about amaze, but interest me in the shorthand that they come up with for modes and characters and stuff. So yeah, we'll see what they come up with.
We'll see. Yeah, there might be something even shorter than that. Yeah.
So considering that this is a new game mode and that we have a lot of characters in our game that have kind of some very mode-specific call-outs, like they'll do something specific in War or Arena. Are we expecting to see characters like that in the future for this mode, or will any of those other ones transfer over? How does that work?
Sure. Yeah, so off the bat, none of our existing characters will have mode-specific bonuses for Cosmic Crucible, but we are planning on making new characters with the mode bonuses for Cosmic Crucible. We do not want Cosmic Crucible, this is super important, because we don't want Cosmic Crucible to just mirror the fights that you're seeing in other modes, right? That is like one of the core design pillars that we put into this mode. We want it to feel like a new and fresh experience. So while yes, there may be a few teams that have mode specific bonuses for Cosmic Crucible, we are planning on encouraging like theory crafting, creating new different types of teams, mix and matching teams, even ones that we hadn't necessarily designed or thought of. We're really excited to see what our players come up with here.
Yeah, so that brings up kind of a good question on, how are you kind of looking at this mode to ensure that, like, over time there's going to be, kind of a diverse meta, not just, you see the same team every single match?
Two primary mechanics. So the first one are rules. And so these rules are, if you've played Alliance War, you're not these aren't unsimilar to the types of room bonuses that you saw in War, but we've sort of taken that concept and dialed it up to 11. So rules are going to be associated with kind of each of the different sets of defenders that you need to both set your defenses for and fight against. These rules are extreme. So like an example would be there might be a set where speed bar increases from abilities, both positive and negative, just do not work in that fight. So we've got a whole set of these different types of rules. And the second mechanic that we're going to use is seasons. So there's going to be a certain amount of crucibles within a season, and at the end of the season we'll do kind of a celebration. There'll be a season winner, as well as the rules will shift. So the idea is that we'll be cycling these things out, listening to player feedback. This is like a super important for us. We want to hear what you guys think about these rules, because we don't just want them to encourage theory crafting. We want them to be fun. So please give us your feedback here.
So when these crucibles start, is there any type of benefit to like getting in like first thing and doing your matches like in the first few minutes over say like waiting to the end, towards the end of the time frame? Does it matter?
So the answer is no. So we designed the mode to avoid those types of time sensitive pressures that other modes like raids and war have had. Right now, the idea is that we'd have about a crucible a week. That's about 3 rounds of fights, and each round wouldn't go under 24 hours. So there's no advantage to being on and doing those fights right at the beginning or at the end of that range. So all crucibles will start globally at the same time, and all you have to do is log in once anytime during that 24 hours and get your fights in. Our first season we're going to be calling a preseason, so there could be changes between the preseason and season 1. So please let us know what you think about the current cadence and your time in game.
So speaking of player feedback, I know that we are going to be playtesting this with a number of actual players that we're going to bring in and let them try it and give us their feedback. Do you know when that playtest is starting?
Yeah, so we're doing a closed playtest starting next week. I don't know when this video is going to be published, but that's the week of February 28th. So
Right.
so yes, we're going to be doing a closed playtest. We're going to be showing this mode off for the first time to our players who've been working on it for a long time. So it's both a bit scary and exciting to do so. So
Yeah, totally.
looking forward to next week for sure.
And then are we going to be telling these players, like after they've done the play test, are we going to be telling them it's okay to like go and tell everybody else what they thought of it?
Absolutely, yeah. We want to hear feedback. We want our testers to share their experiences with other players. We're not quite ready to let them capture and show the full experience that they're having, but talking about it and expressing their concerns or whatever it is totally valid, and we fully support it.
And then I think the final question I've got for you is, and I know this is still ongoing, we're still trying to figure this out, but as of right now, how often are we planning on running the Cosmic Crucible?
We think this is a really new, exciting mode, and we think people will be eager to play it. But we're also mindful of the other commitments. So it's important for us to strike, the right balance. A Crucible season is expected to, have a range of tournaments, but we could change that based on player feedback. So this is another area where please tell us how you feel about the current cadence when this thing launches.
All right, Zach. Well, thank you for coming on the show, sharing some of those details with us. As you mentioned several times throughout this, we're really interested in player feedback. I would assume that you've got basically time planned for after the feature goes out to where you'll be making additional improvements.
Absolutely.
And changes based on feedback later on, right?
Absolutely. We have planned out a pretty extensive roadmap that will allow us to react to player feedback, both small and large. Please bear with us. I know sometimes it seems like it takes a while for us to turn things around. The game is it's big. It takes a long time to get this stuff right. Please give us your feedback and know that we're constantly working to try to make this thing better.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Zach. Really looking forward to that playtest. Thank you very much, sir.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And now it's time for my favorite part of the show. Let's check out some of the fan art submissions over on the official Marvel Strike Force Discord server. Artist Narek submitted this ink illustration of the friendly neighborhood web warrior, but there seems to be a bit of an omission to the right of the page there. Hopefully this is still a work in progress, otherwise Spidey's gonna need to learn how to swing with only one arm. Arkanjo snapped a pic of this pencil drawing of Storm with some impressive stippling work, especially on the cape. But wait a minute, is this piece dated December 1996? Your filing skills have clearly eclipsed my own, good sir. And Lil Aswang made this awesome digital illustration of Kestrel, which is his interpretation of what she might look like if she had her own animated series. You've absolutely nailed the look. I think the only question at this point would be, who would you want to be the voice actor? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm looking forward to an incredible year with this fantabulous community. We really just appreciate all of our players. We'll see you guys next time. I've been waiting to do this for a long time. I am the apocalypse. Nailed it.